at this stage? Well, that has obviously carried.
What are we getting here?
They raise their hands at this stage. Okay, so that is unanimous. Thank you and congratulations. We look forward to seeing the area in use. We'll now move to item 6. We've got about 45 minutes left till the guillotine, so I don't want to take any further delays, and we'll move straight on to item 6 now. So if the officers could pull up the presentation to begin this item, that'd be great.
Thank you, Chair. If I could have slide 4 from the drawings pack, please. If we just go to slide 4, please. Thanks very much. Is it possible to just zoom in on that site plan as well, please? Thank you. So the proposed development is for the demolition of a garage and sheds on site and the construction of one family-sized dwelling, which includes a basement and accommodation within the roof space. It'll also include the addition of a new fence on the south side of the site and 2 parking spaces within the site, cycle and refuse storage. And you can see it will also include access in between 7 and 9 Randall Avenue. So if you look at the site plan there, you can see sort of to the bottom of the screen, scroll down slightly, the bottom of the screen is where Randall Avenue is, and that access will be formed in between the 2 semi-detached houses there. So the topography of the site slopes down towards Dollis Hill Lane. The site's not listed, nor is it located within a conservation area, though it is adjacent to Homestead Park Conservation Area. So I'd first like to draw members to the supplementary report that was published. And we have a clarification. So within the supplementary report, there was an error within the summary of key issue section, and in particular on the flood risk and drainage section, which referred to the need for a condition relating to the submission of a drainage strategy. That is not considered necessary. So there is not a condition in relation to the drainage there. Further to that, just to give an update since the publication of the supplementary report. So a further objection was received, which was largely surrounded biodiversity net gain and the status of self-build exemption. We've further reviewed this matter and appealed decisions. Within our supplementary report, you'll note we suggested some conditions to secure this, but we've since sought some advice from our lawyer and also researched the appeal decisions and now feel that it is appropriate to have a legal agreement to secure the self-build exemption to make sure compliance and biodiversity net gain if that becomes necessary. Further to this, an email was received today which included a number of attachments, and one of those was a petition which included 251 signatures. It also included a copy of the Brent Council Article 4 for the Homestead Park Conservation Area, as well as the character appraisal for the conservation area. And a photograph was also attached, which showed some enforcement officers outside 7 Randall Avenue. Now, much of the content of the email and the petition has already been covered within our consultation section of the report. It also refers to a Home Office investigation at number 7 Randall Avenue. And whilst the use of number 7 Randall Avenue has been considered within the report, this is not a material planning consideration. Reference has also been made to covenants within on the land, and again, these are not material planning considerations. So to summarise, the recommendation does remain for approval. This will be subject to the conditions that have already been set out in the committee report, but also a legal agreement to ensure compliance with the self-build definition, or alternatively to secure the necessary biodiversity net gain. Thank you.
Just going to pick up on that with the updates to suggesting some heads of terms in a legal agreement. So as you set out in the committee report, B&G obviously is a statutory requirement, 10% net gain, but there are some exemptions where it's not exempt or not required. And that would be, in one case, is a self-build and custom build housing scheme. And we'd be reviewing sort of recent sort of or additional sort of appeal decisions, they do go sort of either way. There's not a clear sort of definitive answer to it. Some suggest securing it by conditions, some other ways. But what we've decided to do, based on the information we've seen through the appeal decisions, is to do a legal agreement with the heads of terms, which would essentially say that we would ask for the BNG pre-development score. So we have a baseline for the development. And then if the development is not constructed as a self-build in line with the legal definition of that, or subsequently sold or occupied for persons other than the applicant within a 3-year period, that ties in with sort of still goes with that, after the works is completed, it had to be notified to the council, and then the applicant will be required to secure off-site BNG sort of units, either through habitat units, you have your off-site credits as well. The reason why we consider it's appropriate to do it for the habitat units for the 10% net gain off-site units is it's a private garden. So from a monitoring perspective, as a private garden, we wouldn't be able to monitor it for the 30-year period for the on-site gains. So the mechanism, if the scheme, hypothetically wasn't a self-build and was done through BNG, it would be through them off-site habitat units or credits. So it's sort of align with that.
Okay, thank you. For clarification on the two things we've heard from Sarah and Victoria, is there any questions or clarification on those points members would like to raise? Okay, so we're happy on that basis. So we have two speakers registered on this as well. The first is online, I believe. Tim Waters, we can see in the screen now. Can you hear us? Okay, we can't hear you, so we'll just take you off mute now. I think our team can control the mute, so they're just going to take you off now, Mr. Waters. Hi, can you try again? Okay, we still can't hear. Okay, from our end, it looks like you're on mute, Mr. Waters. Can you try again from your end? No, she's gone back on mute. No, it looks like you're unmuted on our screen, but we can't, no, we have no sound coming through. I mean, what I can do is we could flip the order of speakers to give Mr. Waters a chance to reconnect and take him in a couple of minutes' time. James, do you have Mr. Waters' number? You could maybe ring him and help that out, and we just hear from the other speaker in the meantime. Okay, so what we're going to do is we'll have our second speaker first and our first speaker second, just to give time to resolve the issue with the call. So if we could, Murtaza, could they come forward, please? Thank you. Okay, thanks again for your patience. Should have seen all the presentations earlier, so I'm sure you know the routine by now, and the time will start when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair and members. I act as the agent for the applicant, and we would like to support the officer's recommendation for approval. Members will be aware that this is a backland proposal for a new family dwelling, and I want to acknowledge the planning history, including the dismissed appeal. In comparison to the previously refused appeal, the house is now 6.65 metres high, which is 1.6 metres lower than the refused scheme. And also, when outline planning consent was granted for a house, this new house is now 0.5 metres lower than the approved scheme back in 2022. The officers conclude, taken together with the revised roof form and siting, the development would not appear visually dominant or harmful to the character of the area, including when viewed from the adjacent Homestead Park conservation area. In terms of neighbouring amenity, the report is clear that the proposal complies with the council's adopted guidance. The house sits below the 30 and 45-degree lines, maintains appropriate separation distances, and privacy is secured by condition. Officers conclude that there will be no unacceptable loss of privacy, outlook, or light. With regards to flooding, the site's in flood zone 1, so very little risk of flooding, and the basement impact assessment is acceptable for planning purposes. With regards to drainage, this can be controlled via pre-commencement conditions. In regards to parking and access, the proposal provides 2 off-street parking spaces, which is compliant with the maximum parking standards, along with cycle storage, electric vehicle charging points, and a turning area so vehicles can exit in forward gear. There have been no objections by the transport officer. That's all really. Thank you very much. I don't want to repeat what the planning officer has already said, so I'll leave it with you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions at this stage? I'd just like to ask, there's 2 parking spaces, which you sort of outlined for quite a small, it's been defined as a modest garden development. Why was there a need for 2 and not 1? I just wondered if there was just 1, it would, again, reduce some of those problems with the quite thin driveway up the side.
1 space is for the existing house and 1 is for the proposed house. Correct.
And what account have you taken in the design, so the turning area, but also with refuse? I know it's sort of on the plans, there's like the bin point is quite sort of halfway down. Do you think they could get in the way of each other, or what's your sort of refuse plan to stop that occurring?
The refuse store is located in this particular location because it needs to be within certain distance of the highway. So with previous applications, we've determined it needs to be in that location, so it can be collected by the bin men and also sufficient distance from the house. So it's been purposely located in that location.
Okay, thank you. Don't see any members of the committee. So yeah, if you could just turn your microphone off and retake your seat, thank you, it's appreciated. Are we ready to take Mr. Waters again yet? Okay, we're just going to try and hopefully people can bear with us a second while we just try to reconnect. Okay, can you hear us now, Mr. Waters? Can you check your output on your Zoom? Which microphone you're speaking into. There's normally a little drop down bit there that gives options. Okay, we're just going to have to take a pause just for a minute to see if we can resolve this and see what happened next. So, if anyone wants to get a drink or something, just go for it.
When you
Just to clarify for members of the committee and the audience, we do have the written statement and we will read it out as a backup, but I just want to give one last chance to see if we can make it work first, and if not, we'll read the statement, so we will be able to proceed. But if everyone can be patient, 2-3 minutes, we try one more time, then we'll crack on.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, yes, we have you now. Yeah, see.
Oh, thank goodness.
Perseverance is
Apologies.
always worth it. So I think before we lose anything again, if you are ready to begin your remarks, yeah, go ahead and we'll put the 3 minutes on.
Thank you so much. Good evening. My name is Tim Waters and I'm speaking on behalf of Near Neighbours in strong objection to this application. The application follows two previous applications refused by the council, including one on appeal in March 2024, where the inspector held that a comparably sized dwelling would not relate positively to the existing context and character of the area and was therefore contrary to planning policy. This proposal is no better and has multiple failings equally meriting refusal. Our concerns are as follows. We have previously challenged the absence of any legal mechanism which planning appeal decision precedent and case law has determined to be necessary to secure the proposed dwelling as self-build. The applicant is a company specialising in the letting of own or leased real estate, which includes 7 Randall Avenue as an HMO, and so it seems unlikely that the dwelling would be occupied by the company's owner, as is now claimed. We are now advised that officers have taken further legal advice on this and have conceded that the self-build provisions should in fact be secured through a Section 106 obligation. However, we need to see the precise terms of this obligation to determine how this occupancy restriction would be secured and enforced. As this goes to the heart of an assessment of development principle, it should not be delegated to officers without public scrutiny. This will also determine whether the development is genuinely exempt from the requirement for 10% biodiversity net gain. The proposal incorporates a large 60 metre squared basement comprising nearly 40% of the overall gross internal area of the dwelling, which is largely earmarked for a games and entertainment room. The applicant's basement impact assessment is completely inadequate. It has not been written by a certified and qualified engineer and fails to assess the likely resultant impacts on groundwater, surface water runoff, and land structural stability, all of which should rightly be assessed as part of the application and not deferred to condition. The proposed means of access to the new dwelling is completely inadequate. It is only 2.8 metres wide and is shared with number 9 for its own garage access. There is no dedicated footway, and so there is an obvious risk of pedestrian and vehicular conflict, which has simply been ignored. This also raises fundamental concerns on how construction access would be enabled to the site, which should rightly be assessed as part of this application to provide the necessary certainty in this respect. No urban greening factor calculation has been undertaken contrary to council planning policy. Instead, you are being told to ignore it on the basis that it should be okay. It cannot be conditioned. The proposed dwelling would incorporate an additional parking space, which is intended to serve the adjoining HMO at 7 Randall Avenue, which raises obvious privacy concerns and suggests that the dwelling would similarly be operated as an HMO. Finally, the dwelling is simply too large and would be harmful to the character and appearance of the area. For these reasons, we respectfully request that permission be refused. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for your patience while we resolve the issue, but we heard the whole of that and it was very clear and thank you for sticking to time. Any members of the committee like to ask a question to Mr. Waters? Okay, so on that basis, we'll move straight on to questions to the officers. Would anybody like to go first in asking questions to the officers at this stage? Okay, yeah, Councillor Magadam.
In the report, it was noted an error in the basic impact assessment was made. Can we be confident in the wider construction method and mitigation and whether they remain sound following the identification of this error?
In terms of the basement impact assessment or the drainage condition that we discussed at the beginning? Sorry, just to clarify.
I was thinking drainage, but basement as well.
Okay, yeah, so in terms of the drainage, just to pick that one up, as that was a clarification. So the site is in flood zone 1, which is at low risk of flooding. Given the scale of the development in addition to that and the level of landscaping, we're confident that that is acceptable and there's no necessary requirement to add a drainage condition to that. In terms of the basement impact assessment, did you have a specific question about that? Sorry.
Yeah, not about the assessment itself. Just if an error was made in the assessment earlier on, which was mentioned, can we be confident that wouldn't have wider issues on the construction method proposed.
Yeah, just to clarify, in terms of the error that I was talking about, that was just in terms of the officer report, not the basement impact assessment. In terms of the basement impact assessment, yeah, so things like structural assessments will also be covered under building regulations in addition. Hope that answers your question.
Thank you. I just, if you've finished, I'll come in, because my concern is, as was sort of noted again in there as well, it does feel to me the driveway down the side, 2.9 meters wide, cars are getting bigger on average. You know, you just have to try and find a spot in Tesco to know that. Then obviously you also have sort of bins down the side, which we brought out on occasion. People need access to. People who will walk to the property as well at night, and it just seems to me that is an unsafe sort of location, not the best way to access the property. Do we, you know, what assessment do we make of this, and how can you assure me that that will be a safe premise, a safe like driveway and way to access the property? I think it'll probably be one for John. And is there any other options we considered on this? Could we restrict parking further to reduce risk in that area?
Yes, okay. As you say, the site is accessed by a 3 metre or so wide, well, it's probably slightly under 3 metre wide driveway. Currently serves garages to the rear of number 7 and number 9 Randall Avenue. That will be the sole means of access to our new house. That is a pretty standard width driveway, though, for a single house, and that's how we've assessed it. It is access for a single house. It will also serve parking spaces for the existing houses, but that is a width we would consider suitable for that situation. We wouldn't expect a separate footway, for instance, for just accessing a single house. It's just a driveway for that house.
Sure, just okay. And again, you know, I'm interested to hear your point of view, and it helps me on this. I realize that's probably a standard width for a driveway, but often a driveway on a house, there will be a separate. So, for example, you know, you would drive on this way and access the back of the house, but there's probably another path or whatever to access the front of the house. This is the only way for pedestrians and cars and deliveries and refuse collection, etc. as well. Whereas often, you know, in a narrow driveway, you would have other methods of access for those other modes of transport. But all of this in one, we're still, that is standard and would be within our policy.
Yeah, do you want me to carry on? I mean, there are some improvements they're proposing. So, I mean, it's only intended to take cars. So refuse vehicles aren't intended to use a driveway. They wouldn't in this situation. So they have proposed a bin store within 20 metres of the highway. So that's within our standards for our refuse collectors to go and wheel the bins down the driveway and take to the refuse vehicles. So that's in line with standards. They're proposing some improvements to the surfacing and the lighting along the driveway as well. So that will make it safer. And just on your other point about have we considered whether we can provide less parking? It is a little bit difficult in this situation because, I mean, it's a family house, so they're more likely to want a car because more likely to have family with children. It's not got a good P-TAL rating. We're a long way from the nearest station, so it only gets a P-TAL rating of 2. So car ownership is likely to be the average for the area is a car per house. So there is likely to be a car owned by each house. So that's the existing house and the new house. It is noted also it's been a heavily parked street. So it doesn't really have much capacity to accommodate parking on the street. And we don't have a CPZ in the area. So this is probably one of those situations where perhaps reluctantly sometimes, yeah, we probably do really need the parking to be off street just to avoid the problems that might otherwise occur.
Okay, that makes sense. And then, because obviously 2 parking spaces are being built, but one's for each property, but I presume that's only an additional one for one property because the current property people park down on the drive anyway. So it's sort of 1 for 1. So yeah, so okay, that makes sense. Okay, thank you for answering my question on that. Yeah.
This is a question that's probably more closer to the role of the planning committee rather than the specific case. But is it appropriate to ask questions regarding or inquire? Is it acceptable for sort of insinuations of issues with regards to fly tipping or you know, ASB associated with the present landlord affecting our judgment as far as this planning application goes as well, considering some of the communications we've received?
I mean, in general terms, when an application comes in front of you, it's kind of neutral as who's putting it forward, because you've got to look at it on its own merits. And we will often get comments of, oh, well, this developer did a bad development there or whatever as well. But that we have to assume it obviously will be delivered in the way. So the question would be, if you had a question with fly tip in ASB, it would be, is the development proposed more likely to make that an issue? And in certain ways we know that's certain designs may make ASB more likely by creating, not overlooked zones and stuff as well, rather than it being that, the specific person on it. Because often, again, once planning permission is given, it might be another developer ends up doing it, or another landlord who buys it and carries on. It's the permission goes with the site rather than the individual making the application. So if you have questions around sort of ASB and waste, it would be like, is the design going to make them, that more likely rather than specific allegations against individuals, if that makes sense.
Understood. My other question was, briefly, if it could be summarised, why, what other changes apart from the height decrease have been made to make this now a recommended proposal rather than what was previous?
I'll let Sarah pick up and maybe bring some of the slides up as well, couldn't you, Sarah, to go through the heights?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So I think first off, within the committee report, if you refer to paragraph 38, and there is a table there that outlines some of the changes. So in terms of the history that has been discussed as well, we had an appeal scheme with the 2023 reference. We have an outline scheme. So there was planning permission granted for an outline scheme with some matters reserved. That lapsed and it was never implemented. But it's useful as well just to point out what the differences were between that and the current proposal. So I think that provides that table provides some of the key changes between that and the outline scheme. So I think in terms of the height, for example, the height has been reduced by approximately 55 centimetres. It's broadly within the same location as the outline consent in terms of where it was located within the site, the parking arrangements and the roof type. There is a basement included within this application. There wasn't within the previous one. The footprint is slightly larger. So we have not inclusive of the light wells. So subterranean, it's less than 4 square meters. But as I said, the height has reduced compared to that. But I think it would be useful also just to have a look at the slides. So if you just bear with me while I collect which slides would be useful to look at. Yep, so if we can have, slide 25 to look at what was approved under the outline consent, please. We got that. Yep, sorry. That's great, thanks very much. So yeah, if we are looking at this slide here, this is depicting the approved plan under the outline consent. And then it might be useful just to have a look at, again, slide 4, which just demonstrates that it is, as I said, very similar in terms of the location and the layout. Of course, now we have a basement. If you zoom in just on that, you can see the roof form is depicted on that as similar, and that was accepted. If you bear with me. Yeah, and so obviously you can see with that site plan, it's depicting the sort of visible elements of what is related to the basement there. So you've got the light wells on there. So there's some of the key changes between the outline consent. Does that help? Thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Butt, please.
Thank you. Sarah, just a quick one. Condition 3 relates to the obscure glazing on bedroom 3. Can you show me which one that is on the maps, please?
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
it's, I think I know which one it is, but I just want to confirm which one it is, because that's the most pertinent.
Sorry, yeah, so condition 3, just to go back to that. So it says, yeah, so the bedroom 3. So the southwest facing within the dormer of bedroom 3 and the window on the first floor ensuite. So we need to demonstrate that just on there. So bedroom 3. Yep, so you can see David's top left, yep.
Add up. Was it in the same top right as well? The first green outline showing the grass,
Yes.
just
yeah.
roughly, I mean, in the direction of where it's facing the other properties on Dollis Hill Lane. It's still in the top right, is it, on that drawing? I think the first drawing.
Yeah, it's the one that's closest to Dollis Hill Lane.
Yeah,
Because there's like
yeah,
the
those are the
boundary
ones.
sort of
Perfect.
blaze in.
Thank you.
And
That's
it's
the
a
one.
full aspect bedroom, so we could have outlet going the other opposite way, and in that one restricted. So you still get light, but you don't get the outlet.
Those are exactly the ones I was thinking of, so thank you very much.
Any other members of the committee like to ask any questions at this stage? Okay, do people feel they've had enough information to make a decision? Okay, then we'll move to the vote. So could we, everyone who's minded in favour of the recommendation, could they raise their hand at this point? Okay, so that is also unanimous. So thank you. Thank you everybody for your participation this evening. Obviously we've got through an awful lot of work this evening looking at 3 very different and very interesting applications, but thank everyone for the professionalism and time they gave to looking at all of those. I've not received any other urgent business, so can declare the end of the meeting, and our next meeting will be on Wednesday, the 11th of March. So look forward to seeing you all then. It'll also be the first meeting I will chair in my 40s, so that'll be fun as well.